And we are recording. Hello, everybody. Today is Friday. It is about 6:05 p.m. in Kiev, Ukraine, where I am. It should be around 11:05 a.m. on the East Coast of the United States. This is just a update webinar. I'm going to go through, kind of show some of the functionality that we've been busy working on, haven't provided a bunch of updates or release notes on. At the very end, I'll go through all of the GeoGrid updates that are happening and released. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them into the question box. Doesn't even have to be about what we're talking about. It could be about anything related to Local Viking or the broader Google My Business world. So I am just going to go ahead. I've loaded into my demo account. And the first couple of things I'd like to show you are just going to be some random updates. Now, if we go into one of our locations here, this fictitious law practice, the first thing I want to show you guys, if you haven't noticed, is going to be the ability for you to now edit your address through the Local Viking dashboard. This was something that was often requested, and just a little bit of something that we dropped in, I believe, actually last week. And then the next piece of administrative information is this note right here. If you have looked at your new post interface, you probably have noticed this warning. About a week ago, maybe 2 weeks now, we received an email from the Google My Business team essentially saying that Google is removing the ability to make product posts through the API and also through the Google My Business interface. It seems to be, if you have noticed, if you log into your Google My Business profile, you'll see that there is a new products tab that has a little beta flag next to it. And it looks like Google is going to be making the product post, or not the product post, but they're going to be adding a product category, which is going to be more of a first-class citizen in the GMB atmosphere, probably coming with some e-commerce functionality later on in the year or next year. That just seems to be the kind of way that Google is moving, how they can optimize the GMB platform or the Maps platform more than they have historically done. So the next big update I would like to show you is the ability to tag your locations. Now, if I were to come in here and say this would be maybe perhaps a, let's say, legal practice, I can go ahead and I can apply that tag, and I could go through any of my other locations. So for this example, this is going to be completely contrived, but if I were to go in here, I could apply the same tag, and the functionality, obviously this STD testing lab is not probably going to be tagged the same as your legal space, but let's pretend you had a couple of legal clients in there. You can now use the tagging system to go to the multi-location post functionality, and instead of picking out your locations, you can pick out a tag and you can post at the same time to all of your locations. Now, while I'm in this UI, would like to point out a few other updates. One is this kind of instant preview of any of your posts. So you can come in here and let's say, I'm going to use some spin tags. Hi, hello, hey, this is our GMB post. And now you will see that the preview comes through of what it'll look like when it's live. You can even come through here and you actually have access to every single location's attributes as you post to them. So if I were to say something like, this location's name is location.name with the double curly brackets on both sides, you can see now that as this post goes out to the STD location that I had loaded in here, it's going to pull in its attributes. And as it goes to the next location, that legal location we were looking at, it's going to pull the legal location's attributes. Now you can reach in and you can get, I believe, the business hours, the phone number, pretty much every single attribute that the location has. Its address doesn't matter. And this is going to be a much quicker way to post to a large group of related or semi-related GMB properties. Now, if you are on the other UI, which is not the multi-location posting UI, just the single location posting UI, you can click that button. That will be right here for daisy chaining or interlinking your posts, and you will automatically see the link that's going to be generated over here in the right side. Now, let me take a quick look. Awesome, no questions yet. So the next thing on my list here is going to be the reviews that we've wrapped. Now you can go into any of your locations and you will see a new reviews tab. This location doesn't have any reviews. However, we are pulling reviews, I believe, every 4 hours for all of your locations. You will then be able to get notified by our system. We are going to be working on an update where we have a brand new notification center so you can get text and email notifications for new reviews, for updates to your locations, for new questions or new answers, and we will have that so you'll have a whole control center to get either email or SMS notifications to the numbers that you need them to get notified at. So the second thing that I'd like to show you, and this is kind of the other big piece of the GMB API that we recently wrapped, is this question and answer section. So now for all of your locations, the Local Viking platform is going to be syncing and managing everything that can come through, whether it's your posts, whether it's your location details, whether it is your questions or reviews, that's all going to be managed here. Now, right now, this is going to be a simple interface. So if you have a question or an answer in your location, you can come here and you can go ahead and see that you'll see a listing on the left-hand side, and you can both respond to questions that customers have asked, or you can add your own question and answer, which comes out as kind of like a frequently asked questions for your location. Now, hopefully next week, we are going to have a CSV upload version of this. So you can go ahead and come for all of your locations. You can have a pre-populated CSV with location question and answers, and Google allows you to upload that, or will allow you to upload that, push them all out to Google, and you'll be able to quickly build out kind of an FAQ for all of your locations. Now, the next thing I'd like to look at, and let me hop over to my other location here, is this upgrade to our insights widget. So we have our nice insights here, all of the insights that are coming back from the GMB platform. What we also have, which is the upgrade, and let's go ahead and we are using our insight comparison. So again, we can look at insights compared over 2 different time periods, similar to Google Analytics. I'm going to use the listings on map. It's possible this won't show much data. However, now you can see below here that we are comparing all of your insights for you. So at a glance, you can quickly see how you are doing with your visibility. Now, this is something that we are seeing more and more customers include in their reports to clients. It is a pretty quick way for you to prove that you have actually been doing good work on their GMBs and improving their visibility. It is something that we have worked a bit of time on, and we'll be continuing to add updates to it. But that is the upgrade to the insight comparison area. And then the next thing on my list here is going to be something that I can't show you. However, we recently noticed that Google has been kind of expiring locations, or sorry, categories more and more. And so we have wrapped a functionality around the API endpoint that gives the latest up-to-date categories. And you will notice emails coming from Local Viking when your category has been expired. So if you ever see an email coming from us that says, hey, there's been a category update and your category is no longer valid, that is what that is coming from. Essentially, Google has been making changes to the GMB categories, and we are sending those changes over to you. Now, really quickly, we've got a question from Anna. When can we post? Let's see here. Let me hover over this. When can we post with videos? That's a great question. The video functionality isn't available through the API right now, so it's kind of hard for me to give an answer. Google has been a little bit historically slow with exposing functionality through the API. Hopefully there's an update coming in the next 2 months or so, and it's possible that they'll allow us to push videos through the API. Right now it's just completely impossible, and when you ask Google for an update, you just reach lowly employees who have stock or canned answers that really don't provide any sort of help on determining when that functionality is available. And we got a question from Ken. If you don't have a GMB manager, how can we add a question? From the GMB, it looks like you can only answer the questions, not create them too. That is a great question, Ken. From the API side, we are able to create questions that then can be answered by the business. If you look at the API documentation, there is a little bullet point that essentially slightly alludes to the difference between a question asked by a customer versus a question asked by the business. I'm not 100% sure actually how that works on the GMB UI side, but I know from the API side, they just see that we're creating the question and that it's attached coming from the authorization token of a Google account associated with the GMB, and then we can immediately answer them. That will be a little bit easier once we get sorry, another question came in here. That'll be a little bit easier once we get the CSV upload done, and you can kind of do that more rapidly than doing it one at a time. We also have some plans for making like an FAQ library so that you can choose an industry. We'll pre-populate a bunch of questions that already exist across other GMBs in that industry, and then you can quickly kind of update, edit that information and make your own questions custom to your location. Next question, Eric Little, we have from Insights, the calls shown, is that only from mobile devices to track when? Yes, that is, Eric. So that is one of the big things with GMB call tracking, is that if somebody searches your GMB on the desktop and they pick up their phone and they call that number, those phone calls are not being tracked at all. There is a item on our to-do list, which is to do a call tracking integration with one of our other platforms, Jensen.ai, which has a call tracker built in there, and kind of quickly and easily allow you to pull Twilio numbers and to have call tracking where you can put a call tracking number as your main number on a GMB, and you can move the main number to the secondary number to preserve your NAP. And then you will be able to have 100% call tracking and know the actual picture of how many calls are coming from your GMB. And no problem, Anna. Yeah, the GMB API team over at Google is extremely frustrating. There is a never-ending stream of questions in their forum that never get answered really that well. So another question from Nathan here. In the GMB dashboard, we can see a percentage change, increase or decrease in the stats section. Will this be something you will looking to implement? That's actually a fantastic question. I am going to add that to my notes right now. Honestly, that probably sounds like something that'll just take maybe half of an afternoon of one of our engineers' time, since maybe even less. It'll probably take more time to work on the UI, quite honestly, because we already have the numbers there, and calculating that percentage is a relatively easy math equation. Let me just add this to my notes here. And we are going to add percentage change or delta. Okay, Nathan, be on the lookout for that. We'll definitely get that in there. Shouldn't be too hard. No problem, Eric. And another question from Tim. What if I want to only do GMB rankings using the GeoGrid and not pay for the other stuff? That is a great question. Tim, in that case, I would recommend just coming in on our lowest plan. That is going to be giving you access to everything. We don't really have a la carte pricing. I believe that's going to be $29, and you will get access to the GeoGrid, and you will pop in your own places API keys that we can then kind of load balance so you can take use or make use of that $200 a month credit. And it looks like that's the last of the questions. So if I continue down my list of things, the next thing I would like to talk about, and this has been something that we are actively working on, is going to be the GeoGrid updates. So this is our GeoGrid. You may have noticed that we have recently implemented the service area business functionality right here. Let me quickly show you something right before that. So we had a lot of people asking for the ability to do something like this. So we have our grid, and we can create our big grid size, and a lot of people wanted to be able to change the center of this grid. So right now the center is going to be on the lat long coordinates of the business. And if you click the justified grid center, you can now go ahead and you can change where that grid is centered. So we are still going to be utilizing that business name that was over here. However, you can change the grid wherever you'd like. So that helps you do things like move the grid away from bodies of water. Perhaps you're next to a lake, river, or an ocean. You can go ahead and do that. You can go ahead and move the grid wherever you'd like, and you can see where your visibility is in an area that's not directly over your business. Now, the next thing I'd like to talk about is the service area business functionality. So really quickly, if you are not completely familiar with the the Places API version, this is going to be using the Places API, and that has a restriction where the only businesses that come out of that are going to be businesses that have their address shown. So by default, there's no results that have businesses that are not showing their address, or service area businesses. That gives you a little bit of a problem when you are working against competitors who are service area businesses, because you're not going to get a true view of your visibility. You're only going to get a view of your visibility against other non-service area businesses. So that rings true for both this business name input, where you won't get the business coming out of this Google suggested search or autocomplete, and then once the results come back, you actually are not going to get back any service area businesses in there. So if you're ranking number 5 and you are a non-service area business and you have 4 service area business companies above you and you run the Places API version, what that is going to do is perhaps give you a little bit of an inaccurate view of your actual visibility, because again, the first 4 results are going to be non-existent coming out of that side. Now, the service area business version is using a much different method, and that is going to go ahead and find those businesses that have their address hidden and give you a bit of a more accurate view. The next thing that we're going to be working on is going to be a blended search method, where you will be able to use both the service area business as well as the Places API version, and we will blend those results for you to give you as accurate a view as possible. One thing that I would like to note is that this map URL is what you use when you're using the service area business. So let me quickly reset this map here. And what we can do is click this map URL, and let's say you have a service area business. What you want to do is come over to Google, and you want to enter their business name into maps.google.com. And what I'm using, this here is actually a non-service area business, but this is a rescue rooter location in Orange County, my hometown. And what you are going to want to do to get the URL, and you can do this for any service area business, is you're going to come here and you're going to click this share button, and it's going to give you this Google Maps URL. And usually you won't see this kind of lat long coordinates embedded at first. What you're going to do is you're going to put in that shortened URL, and it's going to perhaps give you a second where it loads, and then the URL loads again after the fact. And then what we want is this URL here with this long string of data. And we're going to go ahead and come over here, and we will drop that in to our input. Now, the next thing you're going to do is you're going to put in keywords. So maybe I would put in plumber near me. And when you are using the grid for the service area business version, what you want to make sure that you do is set the points as far as possible from each other. Now, the Places API, you can get away with being a bit closer because those businesses have a naturally different spread for the types of, for the distance that a searcher might be looking for them from. And in the service area business, you want to set a larger spread so that you can get more distance between these points. And then once you have that, what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and press the search button. We just recently updated the fact that when you do this, it is actually going to give you a little screen that pops up and says, hey, we're processing this in the background, and you can come back and check in later. I believe right before this webinar started, I saw a pull request from one of the engineers so that we're going to email you when these reports are done. Right now, there is a slight issue, and if I go ahead and pull this up, we will probably see it. Okay, so this is the service area business, or sorry, this is the Places API version. If you are running your Places API scans and you see this error right here, there seems to be some rate limiting issues, and I am doing some investigations today and through the weekend if today doesn't solve it, and we will get the proper settings that need to be set on your API keys for these errors not to pop up. So that is one little caveat of something that's happening at this very moment in time. And the service area business version, now that is something that again takes probably 3 to 5 minutes per run. It was released last week and we were a little bit silent about it. We've been stabilizing things in the background. We have the code running on one server, and we're going to be looking in the next week or so to adapt a bit of a new infrastructure strategy where we're popping up new instances of cloud-based servers for every crawl job that comes through, or service area business job that comes through. Now, again, so if you're using the service area business, you want to have the point distances set larger, and you want to wait 3 to 5 minutes for those results to come back. Hopefully by the end of next week, we will have that 3 to 5 minutes down to a much more shorter time period. Now, the other GeoGrid updates that I would like to talk about is going to be number one. Let me go to my locations here. Is going to be this functionality right here. So this is going to be your weekly geo area tracking. Now, we have this disabled right now just because we had 2 customers that looked like they were unfortunately trying to spend $7,000 or $8,000 a month through API credits, and we are adding some functionality so you can actually see how many API credits you're going to be using. We also added some help documentation. If you go to help.localviking.com, I'll pop over there. What you're going to want to read is you're going to go into this rank tracking section, and not the frequently asked questions section, this rank tracking section. And you're going to want to go to this GeoGrid billing, as well as this getting your places API key. And I will be adding another, or having the team add another help document in here about number one, setting billing alerts so that you get emailed when your places API credits go up to a certain point in time, as well as setting a quota so that you can force the places API key to just die instead of getting charged a bunch of money. And so that is something that's very important in terms of not getting completely nuked on the places API billing side. We are also adapting our service area business implementation to this. So if you have a service area business and you have these GeoGrids that are running once a week, that right now is running on no credits. So these are completely free to you at this moment. We will be updating that at some point once we have reached peak stability and there is pretty fast results coming back. We will go ahead and probably introduce some sort of credit system. It's going to be extremely fairly well priced. We're not interested in price gouging anybody. So again, now this is going to be running once a week. The two updates that I'd like to show you that you might not have seen yet is going to be one, the time-lapse view of these, and what that is going to be, and let me click this right here. So essentially, that's going to be a button that you'll see right next to the on-off switch. And if I play this image here, you will see this new widget come up where you will be able to drag and drop fairly quickly, and you can see all of the different results as they come through your scan every week. So if we go back, again, you will have a new button that comes right here. You'll be able to click that, and let's say that your location has been loaded for 6 months. You will have a widget that you can just scroll, and you can see how your visibility changes for any of these keywords. Right now I just have one, but you can have a bunch. You'll be able to have a view where you just scroll that to the side and you'll see them all. And then the second part of that is going to be the ability to export this functionality to a GIF file. So that is actually live. It is going to pop up. There's going to be an extra link down here that you can actually see a button that you can click, and this will go ahead and export. Let's say you have 10 weeks worth of data here. That's going to automatically export into a GIF file that you can then embed in your client reports or show your clients or just look at yourself, and it's going to have the automated functionality where it'll just kind of sweep through all of the different scans that have happened for this point or this business with that keyword that you were looking at that point in time. Now, let's see. We've got another question here from Eric. Do you advise service area businesses to hide their address even though they may have a physical office address? That is, I guess, very dependent on the type of office address. Number one, if you have an office that you don't want people to come into, then it's a good idea to keep that hidden. If you are dealing in an industry where proximity to your business is going to affect the people that are doing business with you, then that also is something that you'll probably want to keep in mind. So again, if you're a plumber and you are servicing an entire area and you don't want people to come in your office, then it makes sense to hide your address. If you are a plumbing store that has equipment for people to come into, then that's a bit of a different story. So I guess it's kind of a case-by-case basis, and that is going to be a little bit of a better question for one of my colleagues, Chaz or Mark, to come in and answer. I will try to write that down and see if he can go in and make a little Facebook post about that. And okay, so that is kind of the 30,000 foot view of all of the recent updates over here at Local Viking. I have one quick update of coming functionality. Now, the next functionality that's going to be popping out hopefully next week, I believe next week, is going to be the ability for you to actually both schedule GMB posts, or sorry, GMB photos. So we have GMB posts and we also have photos that you can upload to your GMB. And what you're going to be able to do is schedule these directly through our platform. So you can say, hey, I want to schedule out a month or 6 months or a year worth of uploads. And perhaps most importantly, we have a new functionality where you can embed EXIF data and extra keywords into any of your images, whether they're these images that you can upload directly to your GMB or your local post, where you have an image in your local post. Both of those will have the functionality for injecting EXIF data. The EXIF data injection is actually already done. We're just waiting on the scheduling functionality, and both of those will be merged at the same time. And then the next big thing that is happening over here that will probably take maybe 60 days. We'll be rolling out updates over that 60 days, but the reason that we wrapped the reviews as well as the questions, and we did that first, is that we have a really big goal of dropping a large module for reporting. So we're going to have white label reports. There will be automated schedules where you can have reports sent out that show the change in insights for any period of time, whether it's the current month versus the month before, or the current time period versus the same time period in the year before. That will again be completely white labelable, so you can attach it to your subdomain or to your domain. You can use your own branding, your colors, everything that makes it look like to your clients that you have some extra cool software in your fulfillment infrastructure. So that is going to be the next thing that we're kind of engaging in. Obviously, we're going to spend a little bit more time optimizing the GeoGrid stuff, making sure that there are no more errors in there, no more red dots, or at least properly communicating why the red dots pop up, and working with you guys to fix your API keys or add in more API keys. And then after we do that, it is just going to be 100% reporting functionality. We will also be adding a view with the tags. So if you tag, let's say 10 locations, we'll have a new view where you can view the insights of all of those locations. So you can view kind of grouped insights, and you're not just limited to viewing the insights of one location. And outside of that, we are very interested in feedback from you guys. We have received a number of fantastic feature requests that we have implemented over the last 4 months or so, 5 months. If you guys have anything that you would like to see in the software, we really appreciate when you message our live chat, when you drop a comment in the local client takeover group. We watch those pretty judiciously, and we have 2 engineering meetings a week, and a lot of times the features that you guys suggest make it into our notebook and eventually out into our UI or into our software. So let's see. Tarek, yeah, it looks like you're asking about a replay. We do indeed have a replay. You can't find the GeoGrid feature. So if you look at any of your locations, I'm assuming you're talking about this most recent one. What you're talking about, we were going to turn this on, and once this is turned on, next week you'll see a new link right here that's going to allow you to show all of your historical GeoGrid searches for this given keyword. So you might have 10 keywords in your location. The reason why it's not showing right now is because we had a number of users who were going to spend a significant amount of money, and I assume that that was because we didn't properly educate people on the amount of money that you can get billed via the Places API. So as soon as we get that training out and kind of get this locked down a bit, where you can see exactly how many API credits are being used, we will open that back up and provide specific training on exactly that functionality. Anna, the Facebook group, if you go to local client takeover, that is where you will find a lot of chatter about not only local digital marketing, there's a lot of local SEO agencies in there. There is also all 3 of the Local Viking partners, which is myself. I'm much more on the engineering side. And then we have Mark Luckenbaugh as well as Chaz Edward, who are sitting in local client takeover and just waiting for your local SEO questions to pop up. Chaz is extremely knowledgeable with Google My Business and the maps ranking in this entire world. Mark and I have a big background in it as well, but Chaz is kind of day in, day out, much deeper in the trenches, looking at a bunch of different clients, hundreds or thousands of clients he's reviewing. So he has a very big picture. And Nathan, will these picture features allow for geotagging of images? Yes, they will. So you'll be able, they actually will automatically geotag your images based off of the lat long coordinate data of any of your locations, but you will also be able to customize that. You will be able to take one image and have it uploaded to multiple locations, and it'll dynamically pull in the lat long coordinates of each of those locations and inject them as EXIF data. We are pretty excited about that functionality. It's been requested by a ton of users, but also very much so requested by Chaz. So we're pretty excited to get that out. Again, that is hopefully I imagine it'll be ready for review on Monday, and it'll probably take anywhere from 2 to 3 days to get the review back to the engineer that's working on it, get some fixes back, and then it will be out in our staging environment for about 24 hours. And once we've seen that it's working as it should be, we will then push that into production. We are, as our user base is growing, we are trying to get a little bit more stringent with our development practices. We were pushing out code all the time, getting features out there pretty quickly. And anybody that's worked in software knows that that's not the most intelligent or stable way to push out software features. So now we are being a little bit more slow and careful. Definitely don't want to be pushing out any bugs into the live production system. So you will see an email as that comes out. No problem. Eric says, love Local Viking for GMB Management. What is your recommendation for improving the rankings? Do it ourselves or outsourcing to Web 2.0 ranker? That is a fantastic question. Now, it depends on how much volume you have. At the end of the day, if your entire business is working with local companies and GMB listings, I would say you probably want to outsource some of that, like building citations, find a great citation provider. Web20 is one of those. Doing perhaps your on-page optimization of the GMB in-house, if you can get a few of your own virtual assistants and train them. There's definitely cheap labor that can be trained to follow SOPs to optimize your GMB, to add a GMB business site. I guess it just depends how your business is structured and how much margin you have, as well as how much you really want to be dealing with the headache of optimizing GMBs. I know that we recently did a project where we had, I want to say 500 GMB locations, and we outsourced to a team in the Philippines that went through and in 2 days did the amount of work that it would have taken a month or so of a less outsourced team to finish. So that is definitely kind of a tough question to answer. I preferably would outsource as much as possible, because after close to 15 years of being in search, the process of actually going into a website or a GMB and messing around with the descriptions and categories and all of those things makes me feel like I'm completely losing my soul. We got another question from Paul. That's actually a great question. Downloadable insight graphs. Paul, can you expand on that again? We were actually, and I'll have to check on that. We had a task so that you could download insight data to CSV as well as GeoGrid data to CSV. I haven't seen that come through. I'm going to make a note for myself right now. Downloadable data. I can go ahead on Monday. I will chat with the team about if we can squish that into one of our next upcoming development sprints. But just maybe double confirm. Want to be able to download the graphs and data. That's a great question. I don't know. Do you mean download the graphs in terms of like export an image of the graph? I guess we could do that. What I would do is just hold Control Command Shift 4 and take a screenshot of it. But if there's a more automated way, let me add downloadable data as well as graphs. I'll check with the team and see if there is a quick way that we can kind of export the graph image for you. I know when our reporting functionality is done, there is going to be a nice, beautiful generated report that will be able to pipe in all of these different graphs for the different insights and comparison engine. That's definitely going to be in our reports. Another thing that's coming out is going to be kind of a read-only view of your location. So if you want to give a client or a partner or whoever it is access to kind of this interface right here that we're looking at, but you don't want them to be able to screw anything up by making a post or editing an attribute or editing a tag or doing anything that the client might do, on this page. We're going to have a read-only option, so you can just shoot them a link and they will be able to see it without being logged in, and they will be able to kind of quickly get a look at what's going on in their GMB. And let's see, we have a question from Charles Blaine. How would you leverage the GeoGrid for ongoing optimizations in the maps? It's a great question, Charles. The first thing that I would do is, one, always start before, if you take on a new client or a new GMB of your own, whatever it is, I would start with a couple of GeoGrid scans with your most valuable keywords, and I would use that as a starting point to judge visibility. From there, it helps you see where you might either need to try to optimize by adding posts to your website or your GMB about different zip codes. So let's say you're in a city and your visibility looks great across most of the city, but there's a corner of it where you don't have visibility. That can be something that you can expand into by adding some geo-relevance with that part of the city through the zip code. There also is cases where you might actually see that you just need to pop up a new GMB. So there's not much optimization that can spread you into that area, and you need to either work with the client to get a location, perhaps a virtual office. There's a ton of different ways to kind of pop up new GMBs. It's depending on your level of okayness with lead gen GMBs, if you will. Right now, the market is pretty hot for paying $50 to $100 and getting a GMB location popped up. If you're interested in lead gen GMBs, you can go to a website, gmbswarm.com, and take a look at that offering, and they can get a GMB for you across a bunch of different industries without having your own address. And we've got another question here from Tim saying, I just had a GMB location suspended, moving from radius to cities. Do you have any advice or can help with things like this? I work with Service Area Business, so I'm interested in what you guys do. That's a great question, Tim. Right now, the GMB world is super messed up. If you go to the GMB forum, which unfortunately for me, Google like a month ago merged their API forum with the regular forum with all the business owners that are constantly asking questions. So now it's even harder to find previous questions about developers or from developers working with the API. You'll see that there's just a massive amount of suspensions right now happening, not only across GMB or lead gen listings, but also across tons of legitimate businesses. It is something that we are actively looking at. Web20 refers to web20ranker.com. They are a fairly large SEO services reseller. You can check them out. Both of the partners there are partners in Local Viking, very active in the Google My Business world. I will go ahead. I'm going to write a note down here, and I will talk to Chaz about this specific situation with moving from radiuses to cities. I will just give a little bit of a personal anecdote. Last week, we were updating probably 50 or so, no, 150 of our GMB properties, and just changing out phone numbers, swapping in new call tracking numbers, and it was auto suspending immediately upon doing that. When we switched to, and we were actually editing through the GMB interface, when we switched to editing through this interface here, it actually lowered our rate of suspensions by 100%. So we went and swapped out this phone number via this UI. That actually completely changed the amount of suspensions that we got from 100% suspensions to 0% suspensions. So I am assuming that means that the API changes that are going through are not going through that same filter that is auto suspending things. Now, hopefully that doesn't mean that everybody comes and abuses this system, whether it's through our platform or any other platform, and then Google decides to start suspending changes through that. That would be super unfortunate. But that is how I have been pushing through changes without getting any suspensions. when I have seen suspensions using the GMB interface. No problem, Eric. And we see Tim says, I haven't joined Local Vikings yet. I saw you were running a special. Is that still the case? Tim, we were running a special. It was a launch special about 2 months ago now, maybe, and that was for the yearly pricing. If you are interested and would like to get on the yearly pricing, you can go ahead and hit up support. Tell them that Nate said to extend you that yearly offer that we originally came out with. We're trying not to do that because we do want to stay true to our word that that was going to be the lowest pricing that we'll ever have. I guess we are staying true to the word that that still will be the lowest pricing we'll ever have. However, since you took the time to come join my first webinar of the year that is properly being recorded, I will go ahead and extend that offer back to you if you'd like to get that. And Timothy, can I do this with your base package to check out this ability? I'm assuming, I'm going to say yes. I'm not exactly sure what that refers to because there's a flood of questions in here, but yes, our base package comes with 100% of the functionality. So you could pay us $29 a month and you get access to manage 10 GMBs, or you can pay us, we have some agencies managing thousands of GMBs that are paying significantly more than that, and everybody gets access to the exact same feature set. The only thing that might change with that is when we release our white label reporting functionality, we might have a special upgrade for that if you would like to white label the platform to your own domain and branding, and you're on that $29 a month plan. We might make that $39 a month if you'd like the white labeling, but outside of that, the platform gives you access to all functionality regardless of what plan you're on. No problem, Tim. All right, so it looks like we are at about close to an hour or so here. Are there any last questions? Looks like those are kind of drying up. If there aren't, you guys can go ahead and you can get a hold of me at nate@localviking.com. You can get a hold of the whole team at team@localviking.com, but there's a good chance I'm going to be the one that answers it. You can get a hold of us through our Facebook page. If you go to the outside of Local Viking, you will see this new widget that I added not too long ago. Let's see if it'll pop up here. This right here is going to allow you to contact us if you are not a customer. If you are a customer, you can go ahead, make sure that you have your ad blocker disabled, and you will have access to our live chat. This is going to be manned by a customer support agent Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. Eastern through 4 p.m. And outside of those hours, there is a good chance that I will pick up the ticket actually. And if David answers, just to be transparent, sometimes that's me, because we don't want to pay Intercom the ridiculous amount of money that Intercom ends up charging you over time. Tim, yeah, hopefully it can. Go ahead. I know that Chaz has a lot of success making changes through the interface that go through. Mark Page, yes, this will be recorded. I have the record option clicked here, and it says that it's recording, although I have had many times where GoToWebinar says that it's recording, and then the recording either gets completely ruined or never comes at all. But yes, we're recording this, and just a quick note, these are going to be monthly. They will be once a month. I had to reschedule next month to today because of an issue where I flew from the East Coast over to Ukraine, and my time schedule was just completely warped for a while. So we will have this probably in about 4 weeks again. The end of next month, and that will be, or probably the beginning of July, sorry, not the end of this month or the end of next month. But these will be monthly and they will be uploaded. They will be emailed out, and I will make a page probably on the outside of the site, where you can come and freely watch our webinars without signing up for an account. Looks like we're coming up almost to the hour mark. I would like to sincerely thank everybody that spent some time with me here. Paul, that's scheduled for the last Wednesday of the month, I think is what we have. If you've opted in, if you've signed up for this today's, like if you're watching this, which you are because you're asking me questions, you are going to be part of the list where if I reschedule at all, you'll get immediately notified, and then I'll also hit you via email about that. I believe it's going to be the last Wednesday of the month is what I think I scheduled, but I don't hold me to that. Let me review what I did and recalculate the time zone that I'm in, and then we will kind of go from there. But other than that, I will make sure to get this sent out if you'd like to watch it again. We'll definitely appreciate all the people that showed up here and spent your Friday afternoon with me. And we will be updating you next week via email. Be on the lookout for it. That is going to come from our Local Viking email. You will see some training on the new image uploading and scheduling functionality, as well as the EXIF data injecting. And you will also get some updates on the GeoGrid stuff as we start to optimize that and make it significantly better. Other than that, I will see you next time, and feel free to hit us up on any of our support methods and you will get an answer fairly quickly. I will talk to you guys next time.